In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the radiator on this Nissan Altima. You do have to remove the bumper cover for this procedure. This is located right behind it, so let's get started. Starting underneath, there will be 3 Phillips head screws and a push clip on each corner of the bumper cover. For me, the push clip is actually missing, so I'm going to skip past it. But I do have the 3 Phillips head screws to remove, so let's do that. Do the same on the other side. In the center, there are 5 10mm bolts to remove. Remove them all. Now from the side, you can pull the bumper away a little bit and take the splash shield and move it away from behind the bumper. What you're looking for is to expose this corner. Right in here, you can see a 10mm fastener that we have to remove. So grab a socket and take this out. There it is. Now you'll be able to take the bumper cover on the corner and pop it out of its retainer. Now you can pull on the bumper cover enough to access the turn signal / marker light bulb. And if your vehicle has fog lights, that would be connected to something as well. But this one does not, so all I have to do is grab onto this, and I was going to unplug it, but it looks like the bulb just wants to come out with the socket, which is okay. I'm going to just take it out that way. And this, because it's not actually connected to anything, this is just a cap, I'm going to pry it and pop it out of its retainer. And right down here, there's still one more retainer holding on this harness. You can use a trim tool to help you pry it out. Do the same on the other side. Under the hood, there is a cover here for the radiator support, and it's got a bunch of push clips that go all the way around. I'm going to remove all of them and then pull the cover off. Just start on one end and work your way towards the other side. Use a trim tool, pop out the center, and then the rest of the push clip. On each corner of the bumper cover, you'll have 3 10mm headed bolts. However, we only need to remove the innermost one because that one goes through the bumper cover and a bracket underneath onto a support bracket below that. Do the same on the other side. I'm going to pop off the washer tank filler neck from the bumper cover assembly. Where the bumper cover meets the fender, you can peel this insulation away. There's a 10mm bolt that you have to remove. And with this bolt removed, you can pull this bracket away. And that will allow you to pull the bumper cover away off the fender. Now you can grab the bumper cover and pull it away. From underneath the vehicle, on the passenger side, you'll notice that right in front of this lift point, there is a cutout in the splash shield. Now if you stick a Phillips head screwdriver in there, you can pull the drain plug and start draining the coolant out of the radiator. Remove it and just make sure you have a collection bucket to catch all this fluid. To speed up the draining process, you can remove the radiator cap by turning it counterclockwise, 2 clicks, and setting it aside. Once it's down to a drip, you could plug it off, otherwise you'll be here for quite a while. And when you tighten this, you want to make sure you snug it up after it bottoms out. So right there, it bottomed out. I'm going to give it a little bit extra just so that I can get that gasket around the plug to seal up. And of course, you want to wipe off anything that dripped so that you can make sure it doesn't continue dripping when you remove your drain pan. Now we can move along. Now from the top, we have to remove some more items in order to get better access to the radiator. Let's start with the air duct. To remove this air duct, there are 2 10mm bolts on each side of it. Remove them both. Pull this backwards and straight up and then out. Next, let's remove this bumper support bracket that runs across the top. It also bolts into this one right here that holds the horns. There are 3 10mm headed bolts to remove and a couple clips for the wiring harness that leads to the horn. So let's take all these out and remove this bracket. Next, this entire bracket assembly with the 2 horns has to come off. I'm not going to unplug anything on the wiring harness side because I'm just going to remove this whole assembly, like I said, and move it to the side. 2 10mm bolts on the bottom and 1 on top on the hood latch. Remove them all. Let's remove this plastic piece that directs the air into the air duct. There are 2 push clips, 1 on each side. Remove the center of both using a trim tool, and then pop off the push clips and remove this piece. There's an electrical connector right on the receiver dryer part of the AC condenser. I'm going to disconnect this so I can move the condenser out of the way. I'm using some pliers to help me press on the tab since it's a little bit hidden in there. Hard to reach. There we go. Right behind where we just disconnected that connector, there's a plastic tab facing down. What we have to do with this is press it in and then lift up on the AC condenser. And that's going to unlock it off of the radiator. There we go. Same applies to the other side. Now lift up on the AC condenser and pull it away from the radiator. On the side that has the lines for the AC condenser, this plastic shield will be in your way. So if you just pull on it, it should unclip. You can twist it and slide it straight out. And now we can finish removing the AC condenser by pulling it right up and out of the radiator. And you don't have to remove it. Do not disconnect these lines or anything. We're just pulling it away to create some space. These brackets at the top of the radiator is what hold the radiator in. So what you have to do is pry out on these 2 tabs and then pull the radiator out at the same time. That's going to make the bracket and the bushing slide out. There we go. Once it starts sliding, you can grab it and remove it. The bushing you can also remove at this point. We will have to transfer this over to the new radiator, and now we'll do the same thing on the other side. There's a 10mm bolt holding on the radiator cap filler neck and the 2 hoses. Remove this bolt and push this aside. We can now get pliers right here and remove this hose clamp from underneath it. If you have special hose clamp pliers like this, it will make this job a lot easier because these allow you to grip on and hold it without having the entire pliers right here. There are push clips on this plastic cover that we have to remove, 1 on each end of it. Pop the center out and remove the push clip. Do the same on the other side. With the same done on the other side, we can remove this plastic cover. This exposes the hardware that the impact absorber is held on with. 4 13mm mounting nuts on each side. Remove them all. Below the impact absorber, there's an ambient air temp sensor. We're going to have to pop this off with a trim tool, as well as the retainer for the harness. Let this hang. Now you can grab onto it and pull it away. With the impact absorber out of the way, we can now pull the AC condenser a little further. Try not to bend these lines too much, but you can pull it away quite a bit now, which makes room for the radiator to pull out like that, which is exactly what we need. And now what you want to do is pull the radiator out, and on the driver's side of the radiator, you want to pull it up and then a little bit further out. That's going to allow us to get to the transmission lines that are connected here, as well as the lower radiator hose. Here you can see the upper transmission cooler line. It's got a hose clamp that we have to remove. You can use some needle nose pliers for that. Once you push it off of the fitting, you can give the hose a couple twists with those pliers just to break it free. Make sure you don't damage the hose, of course. Once you're sure that it's broken free, we can start removing the hose. However, keep in mind, transmission fluid will be coming out of this as you disconnect it. So make sure you have something to catch that fluid. Looking further down, you can see the lower hose that leads to the transmission cooler. So let's disconnect that as well. All right, that's disconnected. Now with the same hose clamp pliers you used earlier, let's remove the lower radiator hose off of the radiator. There we go. Now you can take the radiator, twist it, pull it out, and separate it from the vehicle. A couple more things to remove off of this old radiator. The first one is going to be this hose that goes from the radiator cap filler neck over to the radiator itself. Take some pliers, pinch the hose clamp, move it away, break the hose free, and remove it. Now the other thing is going to be on the bottom. There are rubber grommets just like on the top, and just like the top ones, these also have to be transferred over. So remove them. There's one on each end, and there's the old radiator. On the new radiator, let's install this upper hose. Slide it over. Sometimes you can slide it on with the clamp. This one requires a little bit more pushing, and you want to make sure it's bottomed out completely. It's got this little tab here that indicates that as soon as the hose presses up against it, that's as far as it'll go. And I'm going to just put the hose clamp back on, and I like to put them back, the hose clamps, right where they came from. You can usually see by the marks left on the hose. That usually gives it the best chance of sealing up. This hose clamp is the style that can lock open. I wasn't trying to lock it open, but it did, so I'm gonna actually show you how to unlock it in case yours does this. Stick a flathead screwdriver or any sort of tool that fits in there that you can pry with, and you wanna make sure you don't hold on to it because it does hurt once it pops open. If you have your hand on it, and there you go, the tiniest amount of pressure makes it close up, and this tab right here is actually what locks it in. Now you do want to double check it to make sure that it's still centered and the hose is bottomed out after you've done this. Everything's perfect here. At the bottom of the radiator where these plastic tabs are, we have to install the grommets that we took off of the old one. Simply slide these on and do the same to both, of course, left and right. Before I install the radiator, I'm going to double check that the drain plug is completely shut and tight. So this one is a flathead. I'm going to turn it, and as you can see, this was not completely tightened, so it's important to double check it. Now you don't want to completely crush this and break it, but I was able to spin it about half a turn, and now that it's bottomed out and snugged, it's good to go. There is a rubber grommet in there that seals everything up, so you want to make sure you don't completely crush it or damage it. Take the new radiator and slide it into position. There we go. You're going to have to be very careful with the hose on that side so you don't damage anything as you try to pry it in. Now that it's mostly in, let's attach the hoses on this side. Put the clamp back on the lower radiator hose if yours came off, and slide the radiator in. Careful with these clamps here. This one's locked in the open position as well, and you don't want it to pop and close with your finger on it, because that, like I said, will hurt. I'm going to push out on the radiator hose in order to push the radiator back out a little bit so I can make space to get a tool in here and close up this clamp. All right, the hose is bottomed out, the clamp is on. So let's move to the lower transmission cooler hose that sits right above it. Slide this on all the way. Carefully get the hose clamp back on. All right, that's exactly where that hose clamp was, so that's where I'm going to leave it. And now for the upper hose, it's going to have to go up on this fitting here, and you'll have to kind of squish the hose a little bit to get it on at an angle. Slide it over all the way until it's about an inch up on the fitting. That's what you want. And of course, put the hose clamp back on to secure the hose. And right there, perfect. Reposition the radiator on those two lower grommets on both sides. Make sure it drops in. Let's lock it in on the top by installing these grommets with the wider part facing down, and the brackets say up on the top side. So slide those on and lock them in. Do the same on the other side. Now take the AC condenser and line it up with the top and lower tabs on the radiator and slide it down to lock it in place. Put these shields back on both sides. Plug this back in. Make sure that connector clicks and is locked on. Take the impact absorber and slide it back on. Start on all of the mounting nuts on both sides. Once you have all 8 started, tighten them all up. Torque these to 30 foot-pounds. Do the same on the other side. Resecure the ambient air temp sensor wiring and the bracket for the sensor itself. Reinstall the plastic cover, and if you look on it, it'll say up right here with an arrow, and that's how you know in which direction it goes. Slide it over the impact absorber. It will stay in place until you can put in the push clips, so let's do that next. Slide the push clip in and lock it down, and of course do the same on the other side. Let's get the radiator cap and filler neck back on this hose, and to do this we have to squeeze that clamp. As I squeeze the clamp, I'm going to have to hold it and then bring the fitting down into the hose. Now, I was using the hose clamp pliers before, and if you can fit regular pliers in, go for it, but I'm going to go back for the hose clamp pliers just because it makes things a whole lot easier for this job. Okay, squeeze that clamp, push the filler neck down into the hose. Make sure it's bottomed out when you do this. It is difficult, but you have to make sure it's bottomed out. There we go. And now, to let go of the clamp, first position it where it needs to be. Usually I like to put them exactly how they were. In this case, I have to go at a slightly different angle just so I can get my tool in here. Once you're happy with how it's positioned, release the tool. Double check it. That looks good. You want to make sure it's halfway between the end of the hose and the end of the fitting. And since we're here, let's reattach it with the mounting bolt, a little 10mm headed bolt. Make it nice and snug. Let's put this bracket back with the 2 horns. Bring it back in and line it up. Start in the bolts by hand so you make sure they don't cross thread. And tighten these up. And the one on the top. Let's reinstall this piece that directs air into the air duct. Had 2 push clips that both have to be resecured. Let's reinstall this bracket that goes along the top. I'm going to clip on the wiring harness first. That way that's done and out of the way. And I'm going to start in the 3 bolts. That way I can make sure everything is centered and lined up. And now that it is, snug them all up. Let's reinstall the air duct, slide it into the air box, and then drop it down on its 2 mounting points, and start in the 2 bolts. That's tight. Bring the bumper cover back over. Make sure it lines up everywhere. On the corner of the bumper cover at the top, reinstall the bolt that you took out at the beginning that secures the bumper cover and the bracket underneath to the support. Make sure that's nice and snug. Do the same on the other side. Let's reinstall the upper radiator support cover and reinstall all the push clips that held this on. Resecure the washer tank filler neck. Peel this insulation away and slide the bracket back in. Make sure it's seated fully and start the bolt in by hand. Snug it up. And there we go, that's plenty tight. Give it about 1/8 of a turn after it bottoms out and put the insulation back. Before you clip the bumper cover on, resecure the turn signal bulb. Turn it clockwise to lock it in. And resecure this connector onto its retainer. And clip the wiring harness back on right over here. On the corner of the bumper cover, clip it onto its retainers on the fender. All right, make sure everything's lined up. And start in the bolt that secures this in. Tuck the fender liner back behind the bumper. Install all the bolts that go underneath from this splash shield into the bumper cover. And reinstall the 3 Phillips head screws on the corner of the bumper cover. Do this to both sides. Now it's time to fill up the cooling system. Make sure you check your owner's manual for the manufacturer's recommended type of coolant to use in this vehicle. And I have a coolant funnel, which I recommend that you use because it'll do 2 things. 1, of course, it's going to help you not spill all over the place. And 2, it will help bleed the system because this will now be the highest point in the cooling system and air will naturally want to rise to the top. So I'm going to fill this funnel and naturally air will start bubbling out of it as I fill it. Once it stops bubbling, I'm going to leave it about 1/3 to half full. Then I'm going to start the engine. With the engine running, I want to turn the heat on hot with the blower on low, and I prefer to put it on vent so I can feel as the heater core fills up with coolant. Right there is the temperature gauge you want to pay attention to. Make sure it doesn't go past the halfway point. If it does, it's most likely an air bubble, so turn it off, let it cool down, and then turn it back on again. From inside the vehicle, I can see the coolant funnel as it bubbles. The vehicle warmed up, it bled all the air out of the system, so I shut it off and it's time to remove the funnel so we can cap everything off. I'm going to put my plug right inside the funnel and I'm going to wrap the base of it in a rag so that as I remove it, anything that spills doesn't go all over the place. Pull this up, remove your funnel adapter, and install the radiator cap. Make sure that's nice and tight. I'm going to open up the expansion tank and put the rest of my coolant in it so I can bring it up to the max line. It was already between the minimum and the maximum, so adding a little bit brought it closer. This is perfect, so I'm going to cap it off. Right between the engine and the air intake ducting, we have the transmission dipstick tube. To get this out, you need either a pick or a pocket screwdriver that'll get right at the top here, push down, and then pry the top of the screwdriver out so the other end can push in while you pull up on the dipstick. Oh, there we go. Lost the pocket screwdriver, but it did land on the floor, so that's good. It is also important to note a few things here. 1, you want to check it with the engine running at operating temperature after you've already driven it for a little bit. You want that transmission fluid to be warmed up, once again, at full operating temperature. Also make sure you're on flat level ground. After you've wiped it off, note the 2 dots on the dipstick. Those are the high and the low marks. With the engine running, once again, I know mine is not, but this is for video purposes only. I'm going to dip it right back in, all the way down. Make sure the lock is facing the other way so it doesn't actually lock in, then you'll struggle to get it out. Pull the dipstick back out, and then you can check the level of it based on what it says on the dipstick. I know mine is a little bit high, but my vehicle isn't running, so that's normal. If your vehicle was running, you'd want to be right in this area here with the hash marks. Put the dipstick back in, and make sure you lock it this time. That clicked, so there we go. Transmission fluid is checked. If you need to add any, you use the dipstick tube and you add manufacturer specified transmission fluid. You can find that information in the owner's manual.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.